Hello and welcome to the world's most controversial podcast. That's right. You're now listening to the Doomsy McDoomscroller Show, philosophical science fiction podcast, live streaming good news. That's right, good news. Live streaming from a strange galaxy somewhere in the multiverse. If you get the video feed of this broadcast, you can see I'm in space heading towards a couple planets. I don't know what those are all about, but I'm your fictional host, Doomsy McDoomscroller, and sometimes the show's writers have me referring to myself in the third person or breaking the fourth wall. And if you want your voice heard on the show, just visit www.doomsymcdoomscroller.com to send us a message. Now, before Doomsy begins scrolling, allow me to quickly tell you why this show is the most controversial podcast you'll ever hear, ever. It's because Doomsy tells it like it is. Doomsy don't sugarcoat. Doomsy dares to criticize your culture, the dominant culture, the culture to which 8 billion on planet Earth now partake, and harshly criticize. So let me get that out of the way. All right? You ready? Your culture is the worst ever. You pyramid building farmers / warmongers, y'all cause maximum suffering for yourselves and every other living thing on earth. Yours is the culture of maximum starvation, maximum loneliness, maximum despair, maximum fear, maximum violence. That is your culture. Your culture is the worst. But therein lies the good news, actually. It is your culture that is to blame for all excessive suffering on Earth. There's nothing wrong with humanity. All right, that's the good news. Your species is fine. You're not a bunch of broken monkeys. And that's really good news, because you can't just snap and change the DNA of 8 billion people, but you can't abandon the culture. And so we're going to revisit that notion. Okay. All right, having said that, let's get to the news. All right, and I have a projector. I got all kinds of cams in my spaceship. I got spaceship cam. You know, well, if you want backstory, you can go to the website. But suffice to say, I'm in this spaceship, starship, whatever you want to call it. Drones for cameras. I got a helmet cam. I got a heads-up display, and I can transfer the projector I have for. I don't know how many light years away. I'm like light decades, light centuries away, maybe. And that's one reason why I'm on this futurology bent, because it could take me decades to get back to Earth. I would like to get back to Earth, but I still somehow have a Wi-Fi connection to the original Earth I'm from. And I don't know if it's the original Earth. Anyways, look, I'm going to project this, but this is a podcast. So not everyone gets the video feed. I'm not even sure how it's getting across the universe or the multiverse, if it makes it into other universes, I guess. But, all right, here we go. Let's see. Looking at the news, some recent news, some older news of Earth. Okay, so here we go. This is on CNN, I guess just the other day. Here's the headline. Let me read it to you. Florida Board of Education approves new Black History standards that critics call a big step backward. Okay, all right. Now, before kind of dig into this, let me just take apart this headline. A big step backward. Let me tell you what's not any kind of step forward is having the word for a color be an adjective for a type of history. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Racism everywhere in your culture, even though there's no such thing as race. Race does not exist. And I think how can you get rid of racism if you're always talking about race as if it exists? This race, that race. And whenever you just identify people with a color, that's definitely bucketing them into these mythological races. There's no such thing. But, okay. Black history. It's just so weird. It almost doesn't even have to do with skin color so much. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. All right, big step backward. We got no steps forward because we're still pegging people. We got all kinds of races, supposedly. We know there's no such thing as race. A big step backwards. Okay. Here we go. Into the article now, after that headline. The Florida Board of Education approved a new set of standards for how Black history should be taught in the state's public schools, sparking criticism from education and civil rights advocates who said the students should be allowed to learn the full truth of American history. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. DeSantis has used his fight against wokeness, blah, blah, blah. Wokeness. Yeah, there's no such thing as wokeness. Come on. I think that the best definition I think one could give for wokeness would be a definition that means it doesn't exist, because I guess wokeness, I think the most accurate definition would be like an awareness of systematic unfairness. An awareness of systematic unfairness. I think, isn't that what people are calling wokeness? But yet, maybe people think wokeness is, some radical political activism about something. But I don't know, what's that? How is that woke? How is that, woke as opposed to sleep? Isn't there an additional level of awareness attributed to being awake? So, I don't know how that is supposed to. I don't know how that's supposed to track. But a system, an awareness of systematic unfairness. How is that really woke? What is that? I mean, how is that new? Is that anything new? I mean, haven't people been aware of systematic unfairness for like millennia? When people were building the Great Pyramids of Giza, you think that was fair? You think everyone thought that? Maybe some people thought that. I mean, you people think some things are fair. You think maybe it's fair that there's millionaires? You think that's fair? Some people think that. It's crazy. And by you people, I mean you 8 billion people. You people. You civilized people. Okay, let's get back to the article. Side rant. Okay, the new standards, I guess here's the problematic verbiage here. The new standards require instruction for middle school students to include how slaves develop skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. A document listing the standards and posted in the Florida Department of Education website said. So, there's that. So become a slave for the benefits, I guess is what they're saying. It's ridiculous what they're doing. I mean, your education system, it just sucks. Anyways, New Florida. Okay, here's another headline about this. Okay, and New Florida standards. This on NBC News. The other one was from CNN. This headline's on NBC News. New Florida standards teach students that some black people benefited from slavery because it taught useful skills. The standards, which were blasted by a statewide teachers union as a step backward, were approved Wednesday by the State Board of Education. And here they also quote the website, Florida education website, that slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Oh my gosh. It's just... Are people... Are they just so thin-skinned that they might feel guilty that they aren't one of these labeled, that they aren't labeled as black, that they were they're the white race, and they don't feel guilty or bad about that, even though this happened a century ago or 2 centuries ago. I don't know. Fairly recent, right? Fairly common. I mean, slavery is still a thing worldwide in civilized culture. It's not gone away. So y'all should feel guilty. No matter who you are. Y'all perpetuate this, 8 billion of you. It's your culture. This happened in your culture. Now, it's not... this is not hating America or anything. America was founded on the same thing that all civilized countries were founded on, and that's genocide and slavery. So there's nothing special about America, is there? Now this is really ridiculous. Let's get to this. This is on Fox News, and I don't know, Fox News here, they try to do some kind of a grammatical switch up or okay, here's the headline on Fox News. Critics unleash on Kamala Harris evil, astonishing lie about Florida's school curriculum on slavery. Harris claimed Florida will now teach students, quote, that enslaved people benefited from slavery. So, on Fox News, it's all criticism on somebody who is criticizing Florida's curriculum. Vice President, the article goes on to say, Vice President Kamala Harris, am I pronouncing her name right? I hope I am. Apologies if I'm not. Faced a wave of criticism Friday following her speech in Jacksonville, Florida, blasting what she said was the state's new history curriculum, teaching students that slaves in the U.S. actually benefited from slavery. Just yesterday in the state of Florida, blah, 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 this is Harris's quote. So the new curriculum actually states, instruction includes how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit, leading to countless critics accusing Harris of brazenly lying and misleading the American people. Look, you're attaching the word benefit, the personal benefit, you're attaching that to slavery. And they think, oh, she's lying about this? She's evil? The vice president is the one that's evil? And they want to say that there's some personal benefits to slavery. Okay. All right, now it's time for Doomsy's commentary on that. And I don't know, have you listened to any other episodes? Maybe you can guess where Doomsy's going to come with this, and I'm flying really fast right now. If you're getting the video feed, I'm just cruising across this planet's surface. So I need to pay a little more attention because I just crashed into something. I need to pay a little more attention to where I'm flying. Okay. All right. My commentary. It was on CNN I get video feeds too from Earth somehow. There was somebody who was criticizing this, like the vice president was, and they were talking about slavery and how it was the most heinous crime, and to ascribe personal benefit to it, that's ridiculous. They said of slavery, it's the most heinous crime. Okay. That is not hyperbole. And slavery is very heinous. However, I want to be as accurate as possible, because there is one other crime or one other bad thing. If you listen to if you listen to the podcast, you know Doomsy thinks laws are ridiculous. But slavery being the most heinous crime, how about genocide? Isn't that like more heinous? With slavery, you get to live. It sucks. It's the second worst thing. The most worst thing is you don't even get to live. And that's what happened in North America when farmers got to the continent. Farmers, they were not able to efficiently, anyways, they weren't able to enslave the indigenous population. That's because they were indigenous. Try to enslave them to work on a farm, work outside. They just go, fuck you, man. I know every hill, every tree, every rock, every river, every stream. I know where all the food is. It's walking around. I know where it's walking around. I know where it's crawling. I know where to find it. I know this land. You can't keep me here on this acreage. Are you crazy? In fact, I think I'll just kill you because you're a genocidal maniac, or you guys are raping the earth. So there's that. That's why that's why slaves had to be imported. That's why civilized people in North America imported slaves from Africa, because they could not enslave the tribal hunter-gatherer peoples native to the land. The indigenous peoples, they just couldn't. They were just failed at every turn to make slaves out of them. And so, they couldn't make slaves out of the savages. So they had to wipe them out. So you all had to wipe them out. Your ancestors wiped them out. Your culture wiped them out. That happened all over the globe. On North America, it just happened recently, just centuries ago. It was kill them all. Can't make them a slave, so let's kill them all. That was your culture's solution. And why did your culture consider them subhuman savages? And why it's not really more of a topic in U.S. history? It's not mentioned as so much as a war, is it? It's kind of labeled what? Slavery is, heinous. Yeah. And described so, as it should be. But the genocide? The war that happened with the westward expansion of farmers? Wasn't that labeled as progress? It's pretty much a progress thing. So, now Doomsy's solution to this controversy: stop going to school. Why are you going to schools anyway? Oh, the reason you're going to school is because you parents, you got to build pyramids all day, and your societies have deemed it an extra level of cruelty to force children to build pyramids. So you have to do something with them during the day. So you put them in these detention centers and you teach them a bunch of bullshit. You know, a heinous crime. Yeah, slavery's heinous. How about genocide? Here's the headline: The Shocking Savagery of America's Early History. This is an article from 10 years ago. Here's another headline. And I have a comment on this headline here. This is from 5 years ago, from the History Channel on history.com. Okay, here's the headline. When Native Americans were slaughtered in the name of civilization. And they put quotes around the word civilization. And when Native Americans were slaughtered in the name of, quote, civilization, unquote. Okay. Doomsy takes issue with this headline because it implies that the genocide that happened, the slaughter, it implies that that wasn't really civilized behavior, right? Civilized, yeah, it wasn't very nice, right? It wasn't polite. I guess this is because of the mythological, the I don't know, the bullshit definition of civilization, of what it means to be civilized, that your culture weaves into your minds from the moment of birth throughout your infancy and childhood, and makes you think that what it means to be civilized, that's being neighborly, friendly, niceties, and technology too. You're advanced, you have superior culture. That's what it means to be civilized, right? Let's be civilized about this. Meaning what? Let's not be violent? Come on, man. When Native Americans were slaughtered in the name of civilization, like that wasn't civilized, like they're saying, oh, that doesn't meet our... Come on, that's what civilization does. You know, I just told it like it was. I just stated the facts. Every single civilized nation on earth, your culture, every country, civilized culture is founded upon genocide and slavery. Every single one. Wherever farmers went from the Fertile Crescent about 12,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, everywhere farmers went, farmers/warmongers, everywhere that was slaughter. It was slaughter everywhere. If you weren't farming, you were not living like a human should live. You were not meeting the definition of human being, according to civilized people. So, you know, this headline here, Native Americans were slaughtered in the name of civilization, quote unquote. No, that's the name of civilization. That's what civilized culture does. That's what your culture is all about. Going somewhere on earth, if people are not farming, then they should be wiped out and replaced with farmers. And if they are farming, take their crops or kill them or do. But if you kill farmers, if you slaughter farmers of farming society, that's can be bad politics. You can get bad optics for that. Of course, modern times. What are you in the 21st century now? Doomsy's lost in time and space, so I'm not exactly sure, but there's not. It's a dominant culture now. Your culture. So, are there any? Where do you find hunter-gatherers? I mean, you got to go deep into the recesses of some jungles. So, the genocide of indigenous peoples. This is from the Holocaust Museum of Houston. But now, this beginning of this episode, this is really to point out, this is good news. All of this, really, because I'm pointing out that this is your culture. This is not humanity. You think the problem with the world today, the problem with Earth, is all the people? No, it's all the civilized people. The civilized people are the problem. And the good news is, civilization is not humanity. It's not. Civilization's going down. If your eyes are open, you can see it crashing and burning. You got, 3-4 generations time left. But you got Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z, Gen Z. After Gen Z, you got Gen Alpha, and I guess Gen Beta. I can tell you, Gen Beta, guaranteed, Gen Beta's kids, they're not going to go to high school. There won't be any such thing. Gen Beta's kids, they will know that there's more plastic in the ocean than fish. All right, and the economy's, most forests will be gone by the time Gen Beta's kids would be going to high school. So this is good news I'm pointing out. People were all over Earth not having the problems that you're having. They were all over Earth. They were all over North America. Look at this. Well, you're listening, you can't look at it. I'll describe it for you. All right. This is a map of North America. Overlaid on this map are state lines of the United States. But it shows where, got some other maps here. It shows where people lived. People lived for tens of thousands of years without prisons, without being poisoned for swimming in a lake. Here's another map. You just Google search one of these indigenous peoples North America map. Google that. You'll find these images. Or you can go to my website or Doomsy's YouTube channel if you want to see this podcast as you listen to it. But this is why it's kind of wrong to say that there were those wars. I think there was battles, maybe even a series of battles and fights, and certainly there was violence and murders, you could say. North America during the tens of thousands of years that hunters lived across the continent. But wars, I don't know, look at 10,000 years. I mean, more than that, more than 17,000 years, perhaps even more than that. And there's not one nation. There's just this multitude. I can't even count. There's dozens and dozens of nations, but then there's tribes all in between there. So that's the good news, is for most of human history, life didn't suck the way it sucks for you guys. I mean, maybe you're middle class and you think it's all going just fine and dandy. Come on. Think about Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha, I think, it's going to be, Gen Alpha is being born right now. And demographers, figure 2025? When those babies will be deemed Gen Beta. Come on, think about the future. Those kids. Okay. All right. Enough on that topic. Okay, Doomsy's got something else to say about another thing in the news. Let's go here. A box office success of Sound of Freedom, an action film about child trafficking. Really shouldn't be a big surprise. So this is about this movie that's out. Right now it's an indie film. This is from July 20th, 2023 on businessinsider.com. The box office success is Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom is a box office hit, taking in $90 million since opening July 4th. The movie's a huge success for an indie. Okay. All right, Doomsy's got something to say about this. And this is your culture here. This is the ridiculousness of civilized culture. This is how mind-boggling, effed up your culture is. Okay, here we go. Quote, "God's children are not for sale," says the hero of the movie Sound of Freedom, the box office hit about a former Homeland Security agent who goes rogue to save children from sex trafficking. Okay. All right, let's repeat this. And you'll get Doomsy's immediate response now. This article starts with this quote from the movie, from the hero of the movie. "God's children are not for sale." Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I mean, this God you're talking about, this is some Christian studio. They got this big, recruiting agenda for Christianity. They're talking about the God of Abraham, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Jesus, Yeshua, that guy, that character, that God, the God of Abraham. So this guy says God's children are not for sale. Wrong. The guy's wrong. Look, here we are. Deuteronomy Deuteronomy, the Hebrew Bible. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28. Okay, here we go. This is about you Christian people. Christianity, just what? Flavor of Judaism. So is Islam. So all of you Abrahamic religious zealots, take heed, okay? This is about your religion. This is about your God. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28. If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, click the button here to verse 29. He shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. So, what's this? God's children are not for sale. They are. They are for sale. Yahweh instructs God, the God of Abraham, the God of Christianity, the God of Islam, the God of Judaism, instructs fathers to sell their daughters to rapists. God's children are not for sale. That just couldn't be more wrong according to this guy's doctrines. So what a bunch of bullshit. Oh, also, by the way, isn't all this sex trafficking, this raping of children, isn't this all part of their God's plan? Nothing happens but by the will of God is something I've heard many a Christian say. And they say, what, Jesus is watching? So I guess that's the difference. That's the difference between, if you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, I will tell you, that's the difference between your God and other people. Many atheists. It's definitely the difference between your God and me. I mean, if I had the power to intervene, to interfere, if I could move mountains, I would stop that rapist. Your God doesn't. Your God watches. Your God watches all the rape, does nothing. Someone's getting raped, no matter their age. Your God's watching. Your God does nothing. Your God watches every porn scene that's being filmed, and then watches somebody who's watching that porn video. And he's watching everybody have sex. He's in everybody's bedroom. So, God's children are not for sale. Your God instructs fathers to sell children after they're raped, even. So, in fact, if some wacko, some evil, wicked person wants a child to be sold to them, just rape them, because their God. I mean, now they have to sell. They got to sell the kid to me. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. This is your culture. Your culture is all about this. Look at the icon of the most popular religion is a crucifix, a torture device. Most popular religion tells people that it's all about being tortured to death in your mid-30s. In fact, you should feel lucky. You should feel lucky you aren't tortured to death. That's your culture. Bravo. Great job. See, that's why your culture is the worst. Well, you think you got to build pyramids and have wars and cultivate pharaohs so that you could eventually have electricity and smartphones and digital watches? I don't think so. That's not a necessity. It's not a prerequisite. It's just ridiculous. You have this happening all the time. This is cultural. Girl rescued after holding "Help Me" sign. It's a headline. Girl rescued after holding "Help Me" sign. So here's your Christian nation. Here's an article. When's this? A few months ago on CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, their website, cfr.com. Okay, here's the headline. It's time to end child marriage in the United States. Child marriage remains legal in most U.S. states. Yeah, child marriage. That's the Christian thing, right? According to Christianity, according to these Bible cults, the people who idolize, they worship a personality, but they idolize an object, a text. They idolize books. So for these people, all you gotta do is marry the child. Then it's not rape. I guess that's how they figure. The same holds for Islam. Everybody knows that. Well, maybe not everybody, but certainly a billion Muslims. A billion Muslims know that their ultimate role model in life, Muhammad, they know that guy raped a 9-year-old. They don't like to use the word rape. They certainly don't like to use the word pedophile. But they say, it was 7th century. Back in the 7th century. Back in the 7th century. Back in the 7th century, I guess 9-year-olds could give consent, according to their reasoning. So this movie, that's a cultural thing. Here's why your culture sucks. And again, inmates are being cooked alive in Texas prisons. This is not a political issue. This is a humanity issue. It's from Saturday, July 22nd, 2023. The condition of American prisons are truly horrific. as reported by the Equal Justice Initiative. Millions of Americans are incarcerated in overcrowded, violent, and inhumane jails and prisons that do not provide treatment, education, or rehabilitation. Okay, so, this is, let me tell you, here's the good news about this. This is not a problem with humans. This is not, they say this is inhumane. Well, yeah, but it's definitely part of your culture. No, Texas prisons, people lived in Texas. People lived in Texas for thousands and thousands of years without prisons. People lived all over North America. People lived all over the world for hundreds of thousands of years with no prisons. So the problem is not humanity. It's not. The problem is your culture. And that's the good news. Because you just can't be another species. You can't just do that. But you can abandon a culture. You can be in a different culture. You don't have to continue building pyramids. You know the only reason you have millionaires, the only reason there's royalty, the only reason you have class, economic classes, the only reason you have that is because the mythology of your culture makes you believe that is a trait of humanity. The mythology of your culture makes you think, makes you live as if millionaires, that's what having those in society, having millionaires, having neo-pharaohs, that's what it means to be Homo sapiens. That's the only reason. It's been going on for 10,000 years. Here's a headline. Mayor Adams' new 60-day shelter limit in New York City blasted by migrants. I don't want to sleep on the street. New York, as word spread of a new city policy that will limit shelter stays to 60 days at a time for adult male migrants. Asylum seekers are angry and worried about ending up on the streets. Okay, hundreds of thousands of years without prisons? I'll also say this. Hundreds of thousands of years humans lived, modern humans, hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived without homelessness being a social ill. This is your culture here. Right here. Dash cam catches missile barely missing traffic in Kiev, I should say. And you watch this dash cam. People just driving along on a highway. It's Kiev. I don't know. What are you in Texas? Are you in Nebraska? Are you in Florida? Well, Kiev, you drive on the freeway, it looks the same as anywhere else. So imagine just driving on the freeway, going to work, and a frickin' missile just falls right in front of your car. Unfortunately, it doesn't explode. But it's a huge missile. Destroys the road, debris goes everywhere. This is your culture. So that's the good news. This problem stems from this is not humans being humans. This is humans who are forced to be farmers / warmongers. This is people who are forced to build pyramids and compete with maximum intensity. This culture is not necessary. There's another headline. From Reuters. Russian court spurns emotional appeal for man whose daughter drew anti-war picture. Yeah, of course. Because civilized culture is all about war. That's what you do. It is. It's what you all do. 8 billion of you do it. You do it. You don't have to be on the battlefront. You don't have to be pulling a trigger. You don't have to be in a factory making a gun or a drone. Making a loaf of bread is enough, right? I mean, if a soldier doesn't eat that loaf of bread, he'll eat a different loaf of bread that he can eat because somebody else is eating the other loaf of bread. Yeah. It's constant war versus each other. And when you aren't directly waging war versus each other, you're waging war versus Earth. So, of course, anti-war picture, yeah, you go to jail for that. That's the only solution, you guys. You guys make laws and you just throw people in cages. You know people are going to break the laws. Oh, Doomsy, no. No, you can't. Civilization is a good thing. People were savages. But there's always been violence. People eat things. Animals compete. Humans are animals. It's always been. But you got this kind of violence? Look at this headline here. Or listen to this, I should say. From 4th of July. Mothers attacked by baseball bat wielding children as San Francisco crime wave intensifies. Hey, this is civilized culture. Oh, California is woke people. Civilized culture. It's all one culture. There's no East versus West. They're all the same. A bunch of farmers, pyramid builders, waging war. 17-year-old Florida girl stabbed 15 times before attacker cuts his own throat. Okay, that's a headline. From June. So, people want to say, oh, it was just savage. No, that's bullshit. That's what civilized culture wants you to think. Yours is the culture of maximum violence. Maximum violence. Maximum pain and suffering. Maximum fear. That is your culture. Civilized culture. 8 billion of you. How about this headline? Listen to this. You might have heard of this. U.S. toddler dies after mom leaves her home alone for 10 days to go on vacation. Let me read a bit of this article, and I'm going to tell you something. An Ohio mother is charged with the murder of her 16-month-old toddler after the child was left unattended for about 10 days while she went on vacation. The child was found unconscious at home on June 16th, according to a statement. Okay. Now, people lived in the land that is now recognized by a lot of people as Ohio. And people lived there for thousands of years. People lived there for thousands of years. This could never have happened amongst tribal peoples. Tribal hunter-gatherers, there's no way. Even if some mother, a single mom, it's hard. Even if she just took off without telling anybody, just disappeared. Maybe she, just wanted to end her life, right? Just for whatever reason, just runs off, disappeared. What? People aren't going to notice a 16-month-old? Aren't going to notice a toddler, a baby in their community? Everybody's going to hear that child. Everyone's going to know. You people, you civilized people, you live in such isolation. Yours is a culture of maximum loneliness, maximum suffering. This couldn't have happened in a tribal culture. Same goes for this headline. Look at this. Or listen to this. Boy spends his first day on the streets after parents kick him out on his 18th birthday. And they put a quote, supposedly from his parents. Once you turn 18, you're on your own. A teenager revealed he was now homeless after being kicked out by his mother. That never happened. What was this? Let's see. Well, it didn't happen anywhere in the world for 100,000 years. Where is this kid? Oh, he's now in Salt Lake City looking for a place to stay for the night as he figures out a way to find his way back to California. And the person interviewing him asked if he was stranded out there. The young man confirmed that he was. How long have you been out on the streets? The teenager was asked. He responded that this was his first day being homeless, which was also his 18th birthday. So this kind of thing, this is your culture doing this. This is a thing with you people, you 8 billion people. Oh, but we have electricity and we have computers. We're connected by the internet. Social media. A study says drinking water from nearly half of U.S. faucets contains potentially harmful chemicals. So good news is it's not the fault of Homo sapiens. This is your culture doing this. You don't have to stick with this culture. You don't. Here's another headline from the AP. Earth hit an unofficial record high temperature this week and stayed there. Sweltering heat is blanketing much of the planet. Here's another headline on Yahoo News. Catastrophic climate doom loops could start in just 15 years, new study warns. Earth's ecosystems may be careering toward collapse much sooner than scientists thought, a new study of our planet's warming climate has warned. According to the research, more than a fifth of the world's potentially catastrophic tipping points, such as the melting of the Arctic permafrost, the collapse of the Greenland ice sheet, and the sudden transformation of the Amazon rainforest into savanna, could occur as soon as 2038. Okay. Bad news, right? Okay, let me tell you good news. Okay. This is not the fault of humanity. I just got to say that again and again. I guess I'm saying it because I don't know how many times I can jump universes, using this multiverse quantum entanglement engine I have. I don't know. I don't know if I'm in a universe where the Earth and this Milky Way, if you people avoid extinction. I don't know. I know that there's some universes where that occurs because I've been in them. Now, I think when I was in these universes, I was too far in the future. I was in the right place, in the right space, but not the right time. And there's this weird elastic kind of boomerang rubber band effect that pulls me back into inverts the jump I made with the hyper engine, and I go back across great distances back to I guess somewhere in the decade that I originally left Earth. Yeah, I had to leave Earth. That's the only way I could escape the dominant culture. Isn't that pathetic? Only way to leave. It's like you can't just stop. You can't just stop being in a culture, especially when you're surrounded by a bunch of warmongers. You can't just hit the brakes if you're in a stampede. You get trampled to death. And so, I'm saying this in hopes that, I guess, that this is a universe with an Earth that has humans on it in the 23rd century. Yeah, that's it. So I'm just ranting, complaining. I don't know. I don't think I can influence anybody. Maybe I'm just looking for some headlines that might indicate there's hope for humanity existing beyond the 23rd century. Because this is perilous. Another headline. Carbon dioxide soars to a new record in Earth's atmosphere as climate change continues unabated. So there's ain't nobody woke. There's nobody woke. Talking about this Trump, dumb fuck. This is rapist running for president. Now, it gets way more news than this. A rapist running for president. And it's no surprise he's a rapist. Legally labeled rapist. The judge said that, yeah, you can call Donald Trump a rapist. Well, no surprise. People want him to be president. You know, the most well-known rapist in the world, Muhammad, he's the ultimate role model for a billion people, or more than a billion people. So is it a surprise that there's a bunch of, there's millions and millions of Americans who want a rapist to be their president? The beat goes on, the article says. Levels of carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere reached another record high last month. In fact, those levels continued a steady climb further into territory not seen for millions of years. Okay, this doesn't just mean that Miami is going to be a ghost town. Let me show you. Here we are on physics.org. Or maybe it's physicalscience.org. It's from last year, 11 months ago. Study shows 90% of marine species at risk of extinction by 2100 if greenhouse gas emissions are not curbed. Okay, you got that? I think it bears repeating. Study shows 90% of marine species at risk of extinction by 2100 if greenhouse gas emissions are not curbed. So you got to keep it, the rise between, if it gets to between 3 to 5 degrees Celsius, approximately 90% of all marine life will disappear. 90% of all marine life will disappear. So why continue with your culture? Your culture is doing this. This is not the fault of humans. This is the warmongering, pyramid building, pharaoh cultivating culture that sucks for the vast majority of people. You're continuing it. For what reason? So you can trade in your 4K TV to have a what? 32K TV eventually? The technology is worth it? It's that great? 90% of marine life will disappear. That's a lifeless ocean. You know what they aren't saying here? They aren't saying that humans will disappear after this. They aren't going that far. But you know what Doomsy will say? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. A lifeless ocean? A lifeless ocean. Look, I'm traveling time and space, okay? I'm bouncing around the multiverse, trying to get back to Earth. Sometimes I get near one. I get to the Milky Way. I'm able to get close enough to Earth, run some scan. I've even been on the surface of some, and from the position of the sun, where it is around the Milky Way, I can figure that I've seen many Earths that are like 25th century, maybe 27th century, before the physics of the multiverse snaps me back to a more localized time for my existence. And I'm telling you, from the evidence, that large mammals are going to disappear after all the life in the oceans disappear. It's just going to be a different planet. You evolved. Humans came to be into existence on Earth, on a planet with oceans that are full of life. So, is anyone really woke? Oh, these people aren't getting enough Academy Awards. Oh, these people are having their culture appropriated. Oh, I'm this color and you're that color. And we're this race and you're that race. And we need to talk about race. You should talk about extinction. You should talk about your culture. You should talk about how you're all part of the same culture. You're all waging war. Because even if this is my original universe, I'm going to jump universes. I don't know. It'd take me decades to get back to Earth. Is this a universe where y'all are going to abandon civilized culture? That's what you need to do. You need to start talking about this. Here's some more good news. Your political leaders are not leaders. They're not leaders. The millionaires, the billionaires, the prime ministers, the presidents, the senators, the influencers, they're not leaders. They aren't leading anything. They're riding on top of a stampede. That's not leadership. The stampede, the creatures with their feet hitting the ground, they're the ones in control. Start talking to each other. Slow the stampede so you can stop it. You got to slow it first. No, Doomsy ain't kidding around. Here's the ABC News talking about this last year. Up to 90% of marine species could be at high or critical risk if greenhouse gas emissions continue as is. Lifeless ocean. Look what one little virus did to your economy, your supply chains. What do you think? No more seafood, no more a lifeless ocean. What do you think that's going to do to your supply chains? Your economy is going to suck. Game over. Game over for y'all. The study paints bleak picture for nearly all marine life without emissions cuts. It's on mangabay.com. Bleak picture for nearly all marine life. That's a bleak picture for all life. For all life on Earth. So, I don't know. Am I going to stay in this universe? Or should I jump to another universe, find another Milky Way? I hope I start seeing like some stories of people talking about it, of people talking about how you don't need millionaires. Look, it's not a socialism or a communism or capitalism thing. They're all the same. Those are all the same. No matter what, you get the stratification, you get the The peasants, the commoners, at the bottom, the masses at the bottom. You get the nobility kind of in the middle, and then you have the royalty at the top. Always, 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 people who give you the no true Scotsman argument. If it was true communism, it'd be paradise. Or look, give up the foolish utopian fantasy, all right? It's not working out. From USA Today, when was this? This is like a couple weeks ago. Headline: Climate change warning signs started in the 1800s. Here's what humanity knew and when. In the second paragraph, the article goes, scientists had already figured out by the late 1800s that a greenhouse effect works to keep the planet warm, and that the carbon dioxide produced by burning coal could enhance that effect. By the 1970s, researchers were measuring those emissions in the atmosphere and warning Earth's temperature could warm between 0.5 and 5 degrees Celsius by the mid-21st century. All right. Recall, 5 degrees Celsius, that means bye-bye. Bye-bye, people. Because you can't live on a planet with lifeless ocean. You just can't. Your population will go, from 9-10 billion to 1 million? 10 million? So that was the 1970s. 50 years later, the vast majority of scientists agreed the global average temperature was already 1 degree Celsius higher than it had been in the late 1800s and had been rising at a rate of 0.2 degrees Celsius every decade since the 1970s. And they have like a picture, an image of this old newspaper from 1912. From 1912. Science Notes and News. Science Notes and News from 1912. Okay, so let me read this article from 1912 for you. And then I hope my transceiver keeps working because I'm going really fast right now through space. Coal consumption affecting climate. This is 1912. The furnaces of the world are now burning about 2 billion tons of coal a year. When this is burned, uniting with oxygen, it adds about 7 billion tons of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere yearly. This tends to make the air a more effective blanket for the Earth and to raise its temperature. The effect may be considerable in a few centuries. So, figure it out. Figure it out. Stop promoting racism by talking as if race is a thing. Stop it. Race is not a thing. Get over it. You don't need millionaires. You don't. So the good news, Doomsy, I think Doomsy's going to finish soon. Transceiver's running low on juice. Good news is humanity is not civilization. You all existed. We all humans. I may not be civilized anymore. I may not be civilized anymore, but I'm still human. I'm still an earthling. And we've been in this universe and a lot of universes for a good chunk of 1,000,000 years. And this wicked culture, civilized culture, only been around for about 10,000 years or so. Encourage younger generations to look beyond civilized culture. There's got to be something beyond it. You can't go back to hunting and gathering. But you can do agriculture without waging war. Farming is holy war agriculture. It's a very specific kind of agriculture. It wages war. Not necessary. In fact, stopping war, doesn't that make life easier? It's not going to be such a hard thing to ensure that humans exist in the 23rd century. First thing you got to do is start talking about it. Because before you start doing something different, you have to start thinking different. To change what people do, you got to change what people think. To change how people think, you got to talk. And if you're too old to really imagine, you talk with young people. You don't need millionaires. And presidents, prime ministers, and not leaders. They're not.